What is going on, Eagles family? It is a very special night, mid-afternoon for some of us. And I have a special guest with us tonight, the 272nd pick. 10th round, we're talking here. 1992 draft. Ex-Philadelphia Eagles cornerback, Mighty Mouse himself, Mr. Mark McMillian. How are you doing today, Mark?
Oh, man, I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. I've been following you for a minute. I know we've been going back and forth on Twitter and Facebook, but appreciate you guys, having me on, man. We here, we locked up, we quarantined. I got my sweet tea, so let's rock and roll.
That's right, man. We are making the most of it. And, we got a minute to talk before we actually started this. And, like you said, this is a sign for us to slow down and, we're making the most of it. So I thought, why not reach out to somebody I really respected? And like you said, we had been following each other, talking for a few years, and really appreciate what you do, not just, talking football and helping kids and, helping men and women. You do a lot. I just appreciate your knowledge. So I thought, why not have you on today and give these Eagles fans what they deserve? So to start off today, why don't we give these people, because not everybody was even alive. I sometimes forget. I'm 34 years old now. And, it was great to grow up and watch you and Eric Allen, Cunningham, all those guys, but, we'll give a little backstory about yourself. I'll give a little briefing. You're from South Central LA, but man, you have such a
West side in the house, baby. West side.
That's right, man. I love it. And, you have such an inspirational story, from going to junior college to SEC college, on the national stage, and then going to the NFL. So why don't you tell us, a little bit about yourself and a little bit about that journey, of perseverance, because, it's great. Everything I got to learn and just hearing you over the years. So I'd love to hear what you had to say about that.
I really don't like to talk about myself too much. I know people perceive me as something different from social media. And obviously, playing in the game, I was probably one of the most hated guys out there. Well, I would say all my teammates, everybody in Philly, no one liked the Eagles. And till this day, nobody likes the Eagles. But
that's right.
Like I said, man, I was just blessed to be in a great position. I had a great support system with my mom and brothers and sisters and cousins. And, I just had a lot of people that was pulling for me, man. And, it was just something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be an NFL football player growing up. I was a Raider fan,
Yep.
growing up in LA. I grew up the Raiders. And I love the Steelers. I love Mel Blount and, the Steel Curtain and those guys. And I just said, I told my brothers them back then, I was like, man, I'm going to be an NFL player. And everybody's like, yeah, right, whatever, dude. I was probably like 80 pounds soaking wet with a jerry curl. But, I was blessed to be surrounded by some good people, man, that put me in position that steered me away from, the drugs and the gangs that was in LA that was going on. So, man, shout out to all my guys, man, that helped me down back in the day in LA, man. So if you guys are watching, man, I know it's too many guys to name, and I don't want to leave nobody out. And they be hitting me up on my message like, yo, dog, you left me out. So I'm thinking about all y'all out there, too. But moms, if you're out there tuning in, hey, Mom.
Got to always give a shout out to the mama. Hey, Mom, if you're watching. Now, one of the intriguing things I know about you, with you going from junior college, to Alabama, one of the guys that convinced you to go was Bill Curry. So, you were all pumped up to get there, and your first day there, he actually ends up heading out the opposite direction. So you ended up having Coach Gene Stallings throughout your time at Alabama for 2 years. So what was that like to, once again, like, this is seems to be the story for you. You're always just having a challenge. But what was that like to, be under one impression? Did you want to give up, or what was your mentality after that?
I never thought for 1 second to give up. Obviously, going from the JUCO ranks, I was a junior college All-American along with I ended up again playing with them, Dale Carter in Kansas City when we were coming out. And, by the time I left LAX, to head to Tuscaloosa, I was excited. Coach Curry was the coach. And by the time I landed in Tuscaloosa and got to the Bryant Hall dormitory, I see guys crying and guys upset. I was like, man, what do you guys, they just lost to, I think, Miami in like the Sugar Bowl. So they were like ranked number 3 in the nation. So everybody was excited. Like, okay, they lost the game. I understand that. But they're like, you didn't hear the news? I'm like, what news are you talking about? It's like, man, coach just got fired. I was like, man, come on, bro. I was just on the plane. Like, yo, this is the guy that recruited me, Coach Curry. So immediately got on the phone, called my mom. It's like, yo, I want to be here. I want to leave. And mom was like, no, you ain't got no choice. You ain't come back home. So, I just stuck it out and, end up being coached by Gene Stallings, who I give a man so much credit to. Tough nose, Bear Bryant type guy, Junction Boys. Every time you mention of a player that played under Coach Gene Stallings, you're never going to hear a player say anything bad about him. One of the most respected coaches in the National Football League, as well as college football, and ended up winning a national title within 3 years of being in Alabama. So Gene Stallings, we called him Mean Gene because he ran a tight ship, but we were a disciplined group. We had a lot of good players on that team. A lot of guys that end up getting drafted. I think probably out of our secondary, man, probably like 7 or 8 guys in our secondary ended up playing in the National Football League.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I knew that he was definitely one of the respected coaches, but that's wild. Awesome to hear that. That was something that I found crazy. Like, man, this poor guy showing up and they fire him on the same day. Now,
beat Auburn. If you don't beat Auburn, man, you're not going to have a job. So, you beat LSU and beat everybody else, beat Florida. But if you don't beat Auburn, man, and Alabama, the writing's on the wall.
I hear you. And that's understandable. But, now when you came into the NFL, you were a 10th round pick. That was the year before they went to 8 rounds and the next year 7. Did that give you a chip on your shoulder, being the 272nd pick? That, obviously, you're 5'7" guy, 160, 148, whatever they wanted to list you at. You were definitely a small guy. And, I'm sure you had a chip on your shoulder, but what was that like? Coming, especially with a guy like Eric Allen, in the room, what was that like?
Like I said, when I first got drafted, I felt like I should have got drafted before a lot of guys before me. I think it was probably like 30 defensive backs, cornerbacks got drafted before me. And I just took notes about that. And I just made a mental note about that. Like, I'm going to just prove to everybody that I'm much better than these guys. And walking into the locker room, you got Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Randall Cunningham, Byron Evans, Andre Waters, Wes Hopkins. There were so many guys on that defensive staff that I was a little bit in awe, but I knew I was there to make the team, and I couldn't let my starstruck mentality get in the way of making the team. But it was just something that motivated me even more, man. I think I was like number 6 or 7 on the depth chart, not even supposed to make the team, and just worked my tail off every day, man, going against Fred Barnett and Calvin Williams. Every time in one-on-one, I made sure I went with those guys to try to get better. And I figured if I was going to have an opportunity to make the team, I was going to have to go against some guys that's already played in the league. So it was a battle, man. And me and Fred, we talked at least, man, like maybe once every 2 weeks. And we just go over some of the stuff that we went through, man. It was a battle in training camp back in Westchester. Those are like 2-a-days, 3-a-days. It was hot. There was full contact. Nowadays the game has changed, but just trying to make the team, especially on that defensive side, man, was a big task. But I just took it day by day, man. Just try to get better every day. Watch Eric Allen every move. Listen to Andre Waters, Seth Joyner, Byron Evans, even Reggie White. All those guys kind of took to me because of me fighting in every day in practice. And I just had to make sure that those guys knew that I wasn't going to back down, and the fans got into it, and I just, kind of worked my way into the lineup, and it just flourished from there. But it was a lot of hard work, man, but never for 1 second did I ever think like, man, I'm not going to make it. I knew when I left Alabama, I was not going back to California till the season was over.
That's awesome. One of the stories I do remember was, it was like an injury to, I believe his name was Ben Smith. And then you had Azell Jenkins and Otis Smith, John Booty, a couple guys ahead of you, and you got a chance.
Yeah, it was. I think it was Ben Smith. Then it was Azell Jenkins, and then it was I think Otis Smith, and then it was John Booty, and then it was Corey Barlow. So I was just waiting, man, just trying to wait my turn, just running down on kickoff and special teams, and We were playing against the 49ers, and, it was a really close game. And, I can remember it vividly, Byron Evans calling a timeout. And I don't want to throw none of my teammates under the bus, but they were like, man, get this guy out of here. And I remember Bud Carson was our defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Never called me by my name for 2 years. He always called me 29. He was an old school guy that, orchestrated the steel curtain. A lot of people don't know that, but Carson was behind that. And he looks at me, and he's like, hey, 29, are you ready? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. And it's like, man, there's Jerry Rice on one side.
Yeah.
There's John Taylor on the other side. There's Steve Young at quarterback. There's Ricky Waters, playing tailback. There's Tom Rathman, Brett Jones. They had a whole squad out there. And I was like, man, I'm ready, and when they pulled the guy out, I went out there, and, the rest was history, man. I ended up starting for Philadelphia for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and you started like 47 games out of 64, I believe it was. So 4 years you spent here with the Philadelphia Eagles, had 8 interceptions. You had a great career in the 8 years you played from 92 to 99. One of the things I noticed, because one of the reasons I met you was because when I started using social media, I reached out and I told you a story when you went to the Chiefs. And you had a pick 6 against us. And I was heartbroken because I loved you when I was just a little boy. And then you came back and you had to do that to me. So I had to let you know on the way out the tunnel. And it was great being able to tell you that story. And, I was like, I just want to apologize because I always loved you. And I didn't mean to say those things. But you did really well with the Chiefs. And, 1 year you were actually tied for second in the league with 8 interceptions. And, I thought you should have been in the Pro Bowl that year. But here's what it is. You had guys like Aeneas Williams playing in the league, Merton Hanks. So understandable. But I thought you were still phenomenal. Looking at your stats, I thought there were a couple years that were definitely deserving, especially a year like that where you led the league in interception yards with 274. If you would have been an Eagles receiver that year, you would have led all but 2 wide receivers in Alshon and Nelson this past year. So you would have done really well for us. Oh, man.
Yeah, playing in Kansas City was great, man. I know my time was up in Philadelphia. Ray Rhodes came in and took the helm, and my contract was up, and, they wanted to go in a different direction. I know Coach Ray Rhodes, and they wanted to re-sign me. We had Bobby Taylor. We were helping him groom along, and Jeffrey Lurie wanted to go with a bigger guy. So they went on and got Troy Vincent, who I respect a great amount, a great player. Even him, when the deal went down, he's like, are they crazy? He said, why would they're almost like swapping, pretty much the same player, but he was more physical than me. I guess they wanted to go to a different brand of football, and coming back to Kansas, coming back to Philadelphia, man, I had a lot of mixed emotions, and just talked to some of the players like Seth and Clyde and Reggie, those guys that went on to Green Bay and with the Cardinals, and just like, man, what is it like going back to a place that, like, that was like our home. That's our bread and butter. And it was like, man, it was definitely different. And I was prepared all week, man. I know the guys rallied around me, Daryl Carter, Derek Thomas, Andre Rison, Marcus Allen, all those guys was like, man, we're gonna get this for you. We're gonna make sure we go out there and fight for it. And man, I was just emotional wreck coming out of the tunnel. I knew I was gonna get booed. I knew I was gonna get a lot of middle fingers. And when they made the announcements, and I made a play, they say my name, I can hear the boo birds. But that's just Philly, man. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they did show me love at the end of the game. Some people were pissed off because I did seal the game with the interception. And but after that game, man, I just went in the locker room. I was excited. Kind of broke down a little bit, man, because Philly was home to me. Those fans that showed up at the vet every Sunday, especially the people in the 700 level, man, those are like the guys that pushed me every Sunday to go out there and perform my best, because those are the people that paid a lot of hard-earned money, man. And I was just that grimy guy that took on that Philly mentality to go out there and bust my tail every play, never give up. And, like I said, there was some kid, you were that kid, that's out there probably at the game with their dad or their mom, just wanted to see a football game. And I wanted to give everybody a experience that they can go home to and be like, man, that guy number 29, He may be little, but he gave it everything that he had.
Definitely, and that's what I saw in you. And I grew up. My brother is like a little shorter, about 5'8", 5'7", and so he always had a
That's
chip on
sweet
his
tea, by
shoulder.
the way, people. That's not moonshine. That's sweet tea I'm drinking. So I don't want nobody out there like, man, is he drinking alcohol on the air? This is sweet tea.
You don't have to lie.
Baby.
No. That's great. No, but what I was gonna say was my brother grew up with that mentality. He was a huge Barry Sanders fan. Like we're diehard Eagles fans, but he was a running back, so he always patterned after his game. But I always watched the underdog, smaller guy. So I always loved you, man. I thought you played your heart out, and obviously Eric Allen is the name that he's one of the Eagles greats. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Period. In the NFL. So
Yeah.
that's something that you were in my mind overlooked, but one of the things that you brought to the table was you were very fast and you were quick. And I read, what was it? You had a 4.24 at your pro day.
Yeah, that was. I didn't get invited to the combine, so we had our pro day at Alabama. So that was my fastest time that I clocked. And after that, man, it seemed like the phone started ringing and people started paying attention. But I was like, man, I just started 2 years in the SEC. That I guess running fast overseas, playing against the best competition every year. But that's just some of the things about the draft. I'm a little iffy about. You guys can be an All-American, a great college player, and then he goes to the combine and has a bad time, and all of a sudden he's not a good player. So it's a catch-22. If I wouldn't have ran a really good time, I probably wouldn't have gotten an opportunity. But for the guys that got all the hype and that are world deserving of it, they have a bad day. They get docked for that. So NFL is a business, man, and it's all about what have you done for me lately. It's a lot of pressure. Guys get paid a lot of money, but at the end of the day, man, it's still a game. And one day we'll get back out there. I'm looking forward to coming back this season to the vet for a game and hanging out with the fans and tailgating and eating some cheesesteaks.
Oh yeah, I know that's right. We all can't wait. We're dying inside. But it's fantastic. I grew up watching you, Eric, and then like you said, it transitioned to Bobby and Troy. People have been chomping at the bit for some good cornerback play. That's something we'll definitely get to. Luckily, we think we have that. But yeah, you were definitely.
Man, I think everybody's been. I've been waiting for a long time for some good cornerback play, man. We need it bad.
Oh my God, it did. It's torture. It really, it's been torture. But speaking of, I know you don't want to talk about yourself too much, but I always wondered this. Was this something like when you became a free agent, you went to the Saints before you went to the Chiefs? Did you go there because that's where Eric had gone? Or was that something that really helped your decision?
He definitely helped my decision a lot. Going to when he was in New Orleans. Obviously, he was trying to recruit me to go over there. Jim Moore was the head coach, and his son Jim Moore Jr. was the defensive back coach, and they pushed real hard for it, man, and just made me feel feel at home, and obviously getting the opportunity to play alongside Eric Allen, then Greg Jackson. That was our safety in Philly. He ended up coming to New Orleans, so it was almost like a little Philly reunion for us, but. I was only there for 1 year. Obviously, everybody knows Coach Moore quit in the middle of the season, and just a little bit more adverse. I was like, man, I just signed a nice 3-year deal. Now the coach is gone. Like, then they bring in Mike Ditka, so I'm like, oh hell, this ain't gonna go well. So
Deja vu, college days.
Yeah, me and him didn't get along at all, and I was out of there probably at the end of training camp. He expressed through social media, through the media. He never talked to me. I don't think I never had a conversation with him through the whole camp. And just read some of the stories and hearing on the news that they want to go in a different direction with a bigger guy. And I was like, I just told my agent, like, whatever we got to do, just get me out of here. And they made it happen. They released me. I became a free agent. And Lamar Hunt and Coach Marty Schottenheimer, I think it was 2 days later, I was on the plane in Kansas City.
That's wild. Yeah, I always wondered that because obviously Eric left and it was heartbreaking, and then you had to go ahead and do the same thing, and it was like, what is happening right now? Shout out to Timothy. What's going on, man? Nice to see you. Shout out to Mr. McMillian. Oh,
I don't know. I think somebody tried to call my phone.
I think we lost you there for a second. Not sure what happened
still
there.
there?
Yep. Can you still hear me?
I'm
I can
still
hear
here,
you,
but I'm
man.
just trying to. I think somebody chimed in on my phone, so I'm trying to wait for them to leave a voicemail so we can get on back.
Oh, that's
But
okay.
we live.
Not today. Now that's one of the things. You talked about not getting along with Mora.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you, but you can hear me.
Yep. Can you hear me now? Oh, it says you muted yourself. Can you hear me now, Mark?
What happened to the connection? I can't hear you.
Yeah. All right. Now, I was asking, what were your thoughts on someone like, because you had said about not getting along with Mora. What was your relationship
I
like?
just call back and just log back in.
What was that?
I'll just probably log back in. Just probably hang up and call back and log back in.
Oh,
you gotta hold down the fort, man. You gotta hold down the fort.
Oh man, sorry. I don't know what's happening there. But I'm gonna have to log him back in. He's having trouble with the call right now, but I am going to ask him about Jim Mora, and then we're gonna ask him about Mr. Rich Cote because, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask him. Apologize. I'm not sure what issue he is having at the moment, but if you guys were watching the video last night, this happened with Michael Vick. He kept getting lost with. Here we go. I think we got him back here.
Yo, what up?
What's going on, Mark? Lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You had to hold it down, man. Did you hold it down?
I held it down. I sure did.
Must have been that sweet tea I'm drinking.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, the direction I was going to head, now that you can hear me, was you had mentioned your relationship with Jim Mora. So I was going to ask, the 3 years you had with Rich Kotite, you had mentioned Bud Carson as your defensive coordinator. What was it like with them?
You don't say Rich Kotite. As a defensive player, our coach was Bud Carson.
Bud Carson.
That was our mentality. Obviously he drafted me. Kotite did, but we just didn't have that kind of relationship back then in Philly, man. It was offensive guys and there was defensive guys, and defensive guys he knew just don't come in our meeting room. Bud Carson was a guy that ran our team, and we had a lot of veteran guys that controlled that locker room. I guess it kind of made me into a little knucklehead. So, Kotite to say one thing and Bud Carson would tell us something different, but that was just our mentality, man. It was just us against the world at all time. And like I said, he did give me an opportunity to play for Philadelphia. Peter Junta, I just talked to him. He was actually our defensive back coach with Bud Carson. He was at the game. Then I played in, I think my last game in Alabama. We played against Colorado, had a really good game. And I think that game kind of put me on the radar for Philadelphia because when I did get drafted, he let me know about the game that he was in attendance. I had no clue that, they were there watching me. We have Saran Stacy. I know they were there watching him. I think he was our second or third round pick, I think, as a running back. Him and Tony Brooks got drafted high back then, but I didn't know I didn't know anybody that was, paying me attention because I didn't get any calls, didn't have any agent. So I was just out there, man, just having fun. And good thing I did have a good game.
That's why you always bring your A game. You never know who's watching.
Yep.
Now, this is something I wanted to mention at one point, and we got lost from it. You had only played 1 year in high school football. So, this is all, all these trials and tribulations, there was something to do with, your mother not wanting you to. But, I mean, the fact that, you had only been doing track and then you play football in senior year and you're doing all this, that's pretty amazing. So I wanted to just mention that for anybody that didn't know that about you. That's pretty phenomenal, man. What was it like, though, your senior year and then going right to college? I mean, what was that like?
Like I said, shout out to my mom because she's the one that told me. I was always like, hey, I can play football. I want to play. But, those guys on varsity, there were some really big guys in high school, that we had to play against them. we played against some really talented high schools back then. And from our high school on that defensive team, my senior year, we had 3 guys that ended up playing in the National Football League. The defensive back on the other side of me, Deion Lambert, he went to UCLA and he got drafted by the Patriots. Tony Brown, he was like our nickel back in high school. He got drafted by the Titans. So 3 guys in that secondary, we all end up making it to the National Football League, along with our safety. He made it to the league. We had a defensive end, Akili Calhoun. He ended up playing with the Raiders. So we had a really talented high school team. But
Wow.
I was just a guy out there just happy to be out there, man. I've never played organized football before, and then all of a sudden you stick me on the field. The guy before me, Kenny Furness, he got hurt. He tore up his knee, I think, halfway through the season. I was the next guy up, and I went in and did what I had to do. And I was scared every Friday night, man. I was scared crazy because I knew everybody was going to come after me because I never played the game before at a high level or a competitive level like that.
See, and that's why you embody to me, Philadelphia. I love it. You always have that underdog story, just everything about it. I love it. You're coming in next man up, all that stuff that we roll with, and you were the original Mighty Mouse. I know some people like to try to call trolls that, and I have to check them. I'm like, hey, like, hold the brakes on that for a sec.
I'm a Sproles fan, and
oh yeah.
What he was able to accomplish over his long career, man, is incredible. But he can't have the Mighty Mouse name. He can have something else, but he can't have that name.
Now, here's something I've always wondered and would love if you'd answer this. How did you get the nickname Mighty Mouse, and when did that begin exactly?
In Philadelphia, they were always called. I know Andre Waters used to always call me Mighty Mike, and he just couldn't, I guess, think of anything better than that. Obviously, you have Reggie White, who was the preacher. We had a lot of characters on that team, man. And then moving on to Kansas City with Andre Rison and Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas was the Falcon. Andre Rison was Spider-Man. And they were like, yo, man, we need to give you a name. Like, you got to come up with something like, and then obviously with the Chief colors and me being small, that Mighty Mike turned into Mighty Mouse, and man, it just took off big time in Kansas City. We had a really good year that year, and that was the year I tied for the league and led the league in interceptions for touchdowns, and just seeing people out there and kids wearing Mighty Mouse costumes was like crazy. I was like, yo, this is, I seen Santa Claus and Darth Vader in the vet, but to see a kid actually walking there with a Mighty Mouse costume on with a 2-9 on his chest was pretty cool, man. So, like I said, man, I've lived a really good life, had a really good career, and I take nothing for granted, man. Anything can happen. You can be done in any place. So, people thought I was crazy, and I am. Well, you have to be crazy. You can't play the National Football League and want to hit somebody in the head that's triple your weight and not be a little sane.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, man. And that's why I love your story. And I think that's what has helped you, after your career in football. When you went to school, I saw that, your major was actually broadcast journalism. And was that something that you were doing in junior college as well? Is it something you always wanted to do?
I always joked around and talked. I can run off stats from growing up, because that's all I did was just watch football, man. I just studied the game. I was a huge USC fan, and we were right down the street from the Coliseum, and my major ended up being broadcasting at Alabama, and just doing different radio shows and gigs back in college, and a lot of people's like, man, when did you just start this? But I've been doing radio, man, since like 1990. So, it's been a long journey, a long process. And me and Byron Evans, we actually had a show called Hard Hitting Radio for 4 years that was online. So I've been doing this for a while now, in Vegas. Been blessed to have an opportunity to work for ESPN Radio here in Las Vegas with some really good guys. And, I know the city is excited for the Raiders to come in town. And I was hoping the Eagles will be on the schedule, but the Chiefs are on the schedule, so it's gonna be nuts out here, man.
Oh, that's gonna be a wild one for you for sure. Now, that's something I was going to bring up. You now work for ESPN. You definitely put your major to use. You're also a motivational speaker. You run the Blue Gray All American Combine, over in Alabama regional. So I think that's pretty cool that you still help people. So like, it's not just that you do radio. You've been reaching out and helping people, and I think that's pretty awesome. So if you want, you can tell us a little bit about that Blue Gray All American Combine.
It's an opportunity for kids from 8th grade up to seniors to come out and get coached up by guys, NFL guys. And I know we had a combine a couple of years ago in Philadelphia. We had Barrett Brooks came out. Mike Quick came out one year. Fred Barnett, Von Hebron. So I always try to look out for my guys, man. And that's something about being part of a team. I always wanted to stay loyal to my teammates, man, even through tough times. We've lost a lot of guys that I've played with that are no longer here. That really sucks. That looked out for me when I was a rookie. And 3 names come off the top was Andre Waters, Wes Hopkins, and Reggie White. Those are 3 guys that took me under their wings as a rookie. Man, just didn't know anything, but man, just thinking about it now, just standing in the huddle with those guys, man, was like it's still surreal to me, man, just to think like, man, I'm in the huddle with with some of the greatest players to ever play the game, let alone in Philadelphia Eagles history. But being able to travel the country and still be able to give back to these young men and try to help some of these guys get into college and just let them know about life after football, because like you said, man, football doesn't last so long, and we always think that we're going to play forever. But one day that whistle will start blowing, fans will stop cheering, and then reality sets in. And that's a tough transition for a lot of guys, man, that's not mentally strong, that can't handle it. And you see it all the time. Guys end up retiring, guys taking their lives, or it's way more deeper than just people think these guys, you make a ton of money, but a lot of those guys don't walk away with that money. And it's a tough transition when you give us millions of dollars without being educated in finances and stuff like that. I know they do a really good job with these guys now, but when we're coming up, man, we didn't have those guys to lean on and let us know how to manage our finances. So young guys out there, man, that's coming up through the ranks, man, make sure you take care of home and take care of your finances, man, because that money can get blown real quick. You gotta learn to say no. The favorite word in the National Football League once you make it, man, is no. That'll be your best friend. You can't say yes to everybody. So if anybody out there listening, you young rookies or you young bucks out there, man, keep your money, save it up, because you never know what's gonna happen. Look at us now, man. We're locked up in everybody's locked up in their homes, man. So it doesn't matter how much money you got, but if you're a good person, man, obviously I've done enough good work in my time to be able to be on shows like this and be respected by people that grew up watching me. So, man, I'd like to say once again, I appreciate you giving me this platform.
Oh man, it's more than my honor. What's going on, Brian? And I know people like this are pumped to have you on. We've all been excited
Up,
to get on a player that we respect. What was that?
I said, "What's up, Brian? Is Brian tuned in?"
Oh yeah, Brian was pumped last night. He was like, I'll definitely be tuning in. I was like, well, dude, you better, because we've been waiting years for this. Get somebody respectable like yourself. So, I mean, and I can't believe, another thing that I found pretty awesome about yourself that you didn't throw in there when you were talking about your show. You actually had a TV show, a 5-minute skit called Little Big Men with Randall Cunningham back in the day, and it, was people 5'9" and under, you just having highlights of these people. Von Hebron, our own, was on that a lot. People like Napoleon Kaufman on that show. I remember that. And you actually ended up winning an Emmy for that. Like, that's amazing. So, I mean, what was that like? And did that, help you see that this was definitely something that, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment, man. You won an Emmy. Like, I mean, what was that like?
It was so real for us, man. It was me and Jeff Seidner back then, and we were just having fun with it. Our producer, Mark Jordan, Ron Burke was a guy who, was a longtime Philly sports guy in Philadelphia. He was the narrator of the Randall Cunningham show, and he's like, man, I think you guys should just, do a little spinoff, do something different. In Philadelphia, you guys both made the team. And we came up with the Little Big Man Show, man. It was a segment. I think it was I don't know what day it was that we filmed. I think it was every Monday or something like that. We filmed right after practice, me and Jeff Seidner. And when Seidner left, Von Hebron came on and replaced him. But our first year, man, it was crazy, man. I got the phone call and it was like, yo, guess what? I was like, what? It was like, yo, we want an Emmy. I was like, get out of here, an Emmy? I was like, man, yeah, Yuki Washington, you had the Randall Cunningham show, all these guys that had their shows, and here we are with a little skit, end up winning the Emmy. So there was a lot of news reporters that was really pissed off at us that we came away with an Emmy. So it's great, man. I still cherish that award to this day, man. And who would think, man, we win an Emmy award and we're football players.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. Like, I remember reading that and I was like, wait, an Emmy? I'm like, that's awesome. As a child, like it's so cool, as you get older, when you read things and it brings you back, you're like, oh my gosh, like it's really nuts. And it's really cool that technology allows, us to even do this. So I really do appreciate you coming on, because it's wild. If my dad were still here today, he'd be like, wait, you're doing what? So I'm pretty excited about it, man. And, you do lots of great stuff. You help men and women all over the place, not just with football, So I really appreciate what you do in life in general. So having someone like you that I really respect, it's truly my honor. So thank you. But, what was it that this year you were offered a job to coach at a college, weren't you? And you ended up turning that down.
It was Northern Colorado. Ed McCaffrey is the head coach over there. He just hired him this year. And obviously doing battle. Me and Ed's been going battle since he was with the Giants. A lot of people don't know that, man. I played against him when he was with the Giants, when he was with the 49ers, when he was with the Broncos. So I played against Ed a whole lot, man. And he offered me an opportunity to coach up there in Northern Colorado. Just wasn't a suitable fit at that time for me and my family. I have a son that's in college right now, in junior college, so he's trying to transfer into a 4-year school. So the things just didn't line up, man. But I have like I said, man, for them to even offer me a coaching job at a collegiate level, man, I'm grateful for Ed, and I continue to send those guys, young talented guys to help their program build up. And like I said, I've been knowing him and Christian and all his other kids, man. I've selected those guys for our high school All-American game, and I'm really cool with his family, man. They're a great family, and like I said, man, if hopefully God open up another door for me next year to coach college football. If it is, man, I'll be excited, man. But it just wasn't the right time at that time. So for the community of Northern Colorado, I give those people the utmost respect for even believing in me and giving me the opportunity.
Well, that just goes to show how respected you truly are, and how much people, want your knowledge, and how much, you bring to the table. And I know you're still going to be able to help people and do things without coaching. And my next statement was going to be, wherever you go and whenever that is, I'll be ready. And if you're saying next year, well, then I'll be eyes peeled watching to see what your moves are. But we actually have a fan question here, Mark. This person asks, what quarterback did you nearly pick off, and now, obviously, you didn't? Who do you wish you would have intercepted, but you didn't?
Man, I picked off a lot of guys. I'm trying to think who I man. It's pretty tough, because I think I got an interception off a lot of guys in our division that was really those guys. You take Jay Schrader, you take Phil Sims, Troy Aikman, those guys that was in our division. Obviously, I got an interception against Steve Young. We played against the 49ers. I got John Elway. I got Dan Marino.
Oh, man.
There's a lot of guys that, there was some interceptions in there. I was like, this guy's not, he's not a Hall of Fame guy, but there's not one quarterback I think that I can recall to be like, man, I wish I would have got an interception off that guy. So all the guys that I really want to get an interception off of, I end up getting it.
I got you. Okay, well then let's flip it around then. Who's your favorite? What's the favorite ball that you got to keep? Who was the quarterback that you cherished the most that you got to pick up?
Well, I kept all the balls I intercepted. I kept all those balls.
Nice.
Everyone was special to me, man. Like, obviously with my journey, I was just a guy that wasn't supposed to be out there. So I never like, oh my God, this is so special. I just got one off of this guy. Every time I got an opportunity to make a quarterback play, it was just my job. So I never bloated or goated about, hey, I just got an interception off of this Hall of Fame quarterback or this great guy. I was just out there just doing my job.
Love it. Great answer. Brian asks, is there a favorite moment from your career that stands out to you the most?
I would say just walking into the locker room my very first time in Philadelphia. Like I said, I came in with all my suitcases, and Reggie White looks at me. He's like, "Whose little kid is this in the locker room?" And the locker room started busting up laughing. Obviously, Reggie White was a minister, and I said some things that I shouldn't say to a minister, but it was a lot of 4-letter words that I was really pissed off. But what are you going to say to Reggie White, man? So yeah. I think that was probably a memorable moment, just being able to walk in an NFL locker room, being drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles, along that defense, just the guys that they had on that defense alone, man. It was like, what are they going to do with me? They have enough guys in the secondary to be able to hold it down. But like I said, man, that was probably it, getting clowned by Reggie White.
That's a great story, and I appreciate that. Who's little kid? I'm supposed to tell you, Sean from Blue Gray Football sends a shout out. Sean, thank you for tuning in.
That dude is an Eagle fan, man. That's my guy. We travel all over the country doing the Blue Gray Combines. He's from Cali, but he lives in Dallas now. But you talk about an Eagle fan, man. He is 100% Eagle fan. That's my guy, though.
Love it. Braving it out in Dallas country, letting them know how it is. I love that, Sean. Welcome to the family. Thank you, Mark, for adding all the people you did today to the group. That's pretty awesome of you. Everybody tuning in for the first time, I really do appreciate it. This is something I do usually by myself or bring on some other analysts, but having Mark here today is my first time with an actual Eagles player. So I'm beyond ecstatic, and I hope you guys are too. We have another user saying hello. How are you, Facebook user? If you click the link at the top, we'll be able to see who you are. Gangrene, what's going on, Mark?
Go what Birds. Do you do, Mark? Baby, Bird Gang. We the real Bird Gang. I know Cardinals talking about the Bird Gang and all that. That's a Cardinal. That's not even a real bird, man. You know what an eagle would do to a little Cardinal?
How about it? I think people don't realize how big eagles are and what they do. Like, they are some serious animals. And I always hated, America's team and the Cowboys. It's like, pretty sure that Philadelphia is where we signed the Declaration of Independence. Pretty sure the eagle is our nation's bird. But hey, you guys just go ahead with the state that wanted to break off from this country. Sure, why not? Oh, man. It's been awesome talking about you, and I know that I told you I wouldn't spend too much time on yourself, but I honestly, these are things I just wanted people to know about you because it's the reason I respect you, and I love what you're doing, and I look forward to following you for years to come, and I hope that, we have you on here some more, but I thought we could at least talk a little bit while we've got an actual Eagles quarterback on here. Talk a little bit of Eagles football. One of my favorite additions of the offseason, we might as well go right to it. Darius Slay, how do you feel about the Eagles finally getting themselves a cornerback number one in Darius Slay?
I'm excited to see what this young man brings to the table. And, I don't get caught up in guys getting drafted high at all. I guess I'm old school, man. You got to prove yourself to me on Sundays. It looks good on Saturdays. You're playing against probably one good receiver every Saturday, but in the National Football League, everybody's good. So, I'm really excited about this young man and to see what he can bring to the table. I think they did really good in the draft. I know we talked a little bit off air about everybody got kind of caught up in the Jalen draft pick and kind of forgot about, the rest of the guys who I think are quality guys that can help us win ball games. And in a tough division, man, you look at the Giants, they loaded up on secondary play. They got Saquon Barkley. It's still a little iffy at the offensive wide receiver position. The Redskins, they did some upgrading as well. I think they found themselves some weapons on the outside. Defensively, they played pretty well. And shoot, that team in Texas, man, they they freaking loaded up too. So, with the guys that we got, I think we kind of tried to match what they were doing. I know we wish we would have got Jeffries from LSU, but we didn't. We got Jalen, and, we're just going to ride with it and support that young man 100%.
Yeah, and that's something you and I had talked about, like you said, off air. People really overlook a lot of the things we did and, knocking on people. And I think, the Jefferson pick, that definitely overshadowed things. And then you get the Hurts pick, and people were upset in free agency because they wanted us to rush in and overpay, some overrated guys, in my opinion. So I thought we took the approach we needed to, added depth where we needed to. But we went ahead and added a cornerback one, like we said, in Darius Slay. But then they went ahead and added someone like Robey-Coleman to a position. It's a corner, but you very well know, at that nickel position, it's different. And you have Trevon LeBlanc there, you have Avonte Maddox there, so you got someone that's going to push there and compete. But the question is, who is your number 2 corner on this Eagles defense right now?
That's a tough one, man. It's going to take. Obviously, we don't know what training camp is going to. We don't know if training camp is even going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a battle, and I know with Slay coming over, he's I like his game. He's physical. He challenges guys. He's excited to be in Philadelphia, which is always good. I know guys when they're on different teams, they don't like Philadelphia, but when you come there, it's just a different vibe. It's just a different vibe, man. It's a different city. A different community, so I'm pulling for that young man. I tweeted him out as soon as he signed, and he responded back. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table. Losing Malcolm is going to hurt too, man. He lost some steps, but he was still a leader on that defense. And guys, those are some of the things that you need as a young team. You need somebody that's going to step in that huddle and hold those guys accountable. So. Slade's probably going to be that guy. He's going to be the elder statesman guy in the secondary now. And, Maddox, he's got to step up. It's that time now that, there's times in the game that he didn't do well. And there are some times he made plays. But in the National Football League, you got to be consistent every week. And so I know he's another smaller guy that when he got drafted, a lot of people was comparing him to me. And, that was a lot of pressure. I'm not saying I was the greatest cornerback, but let that young man go out there and just prove himself and do the best he can. So there's a lot of holes in that secondary that needs to be shored up. And like I said, with this COVID going on, it's no training camp, so you don't know, you can't bring the rookies in to perform. So it's going to be tough. But like I said, bringing in veteran guys like Slay, that definitely helps with this process because he can go in and play right now and lock down your number 1 receiver.
Exactly. And that's the benefit of having someone like him, and clearly every team is at a disadvantage. We got to hear Doug yesterday talking about that, and it stinks, you're not going to see some of these young guys, but at the cornerback position, these are, guys that have been here other than Darius Slay and Nickel. So it's those guys, the other guys that have been here that need to step it up and prove who's going to be number 2. So we're all waiting for Sidney Jones. Avonte had flashes, and he provides, he's versatile. He can play corner. He can play safety, inside, outside the corner. So I really love that kid. And my kid had the luxury of meeting him and getting his autograph. And like you said, I honestly thought of you when I met him. I'm like, shorter guy. I'm like, everybody's sleeping on him. I'm pulling for him. I'm like, let's go. And, so it was nice to see. He had his ups and downs, though. So lots of question marks. And then you had mentioned, the departure of Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, that's huge. You have a guy playing 99% of your defensive snaps. He's helping on special teams. He's stepping in. He's not just a safety. He's a corner, a nickel, playing linebacker essentially at times. Now, the Eagles made sure, you lose someone like that, they know that's a big deal. So they already had this planned. They moved Jalen Mills back to safety, which a lot of people have been talking about for years. So you make that move, then you add someone like Will Parks, and then you draft someone like Kayvon Wallace. So what are your thoughts on them filling that void of Malcolm Jenkins with those three players?
Like I said, it's hard to fill the void like that, man. This guy
is three players.
Veteran players. Yeah. Veteran players are hard to come by. And, every year I'm sure they had discussions like, hey, Malcolm's getting a little slower. We got to replace him with some guys. But, there was nobody that can replace him. There's nobody that can do what he does. Like you said, this is a guy that started a lot of games in his career and was still playing on special teams at a high level. And, guys, that's rare. And, to get your star guy to be willing to go run down on kickoffs and punt return and punt team, and what he just brought off the field as well, to the city of Philadelphia, man, that's going to be hard to replace. But Kayvon Wallace, a young guy out of Clemson, I know a lot of people are trying to compare him to B-Doc, and I saw B-Doc say, man, let this guy be himself. And that's a lot of pressure that a lot of people are trying to put on that young man. And just let this guy go out and play ball. And you can't – he's one of the greatest players in NFL history, not Eagle history. You can't, expect this young man to come in just because he went to Clemson and B-Doc went to Clemson and put that on him. But, he's a talented guy. He makes a lot of plays. He's athletic. But like I said, in that division, man, the Cowboys – we got to stop their wideouts, because they're loaded up on wideouts. And obviously you get a Zeke, healthy Zeke that's full time, but the quarterback position is kind of up in the race. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a great shootout, man. It's going to come down probably to the last few games of the season. Guys are going to be battered and bruised. But like I said, if we can protect our quarterback and keep Carson upright and, get the ball out of his hands a lot quicker, and help on that backside. I know we got a young tackle that's in there. You lose Peters, who was real big, for a long time. And if you can't protect the quarterback's backside in the National Football League, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and that's something I was definitely going to hit you up on with the offense. And it, same with this person, Mike here asked, who in the secondary you think is really going to suffer? If you just want to answer that before I talk about the offensive line with you, who do you think is going to suffer the most because of not having training camp? Do you think Darius Slay?
I would think the young guys that's coming in, not having a training camp, especially if you're a rookie or, even if you're, a free agent. Usually if you're a free agent, you play 3 or 4 years, the systems are not that difficult. You've played in the competition, but for the young guys, man, it's going to be, I can't imagine if I got drafted, when I did and not had a training camp, that's real tough, man, to be going against some live competition. And, when things start up, whenever they start up, we don't know if we're going to have fans in the stands. We don't know how that's going to work. So things are kind of up in the air right now. So as far as someone suffering, for the rookies and the young guys, man, this is an opportunity for the coaches to see what they have, not let the players have to go out and prove themselves, but, you can only evaluate so much on film, especially a college player, because the game in the National Football League is it's actually faster than college.
Yeah, and that's something, I always try to talk about in my videos, especially when we were coming up on the draft. It was, I can sit here and evaluate someone and tell you everything I want about, a certain stat, but I always try to put it into context as, well, this is the type of team they're playing this week. This was the down situation. You always have to look at things. And then when they come to the NFL, completely different ballgame. So it doesn't matter what you did then, So like you said, all those young guys are going to suffer. And, it's unfortunate, but everyone in the NFL is going to have to. But this is where we see who's got good coaches, who's doing what they can to, reach out to these young guys and do what they can. And, maybe this is more reminiscent of 2011 when we had a lockout. So maybe someone like Peterson, who dealt with that, maybe, they're more understanding. So it's not like they're sitting there on their thumbs,
And that goes back to our question about Malcolm, losing a guy like that could probably like, hey, guys, come to my town, come let's work out and train together and kind of mentor these guys as to them working out with their trainer or somebody that's, not been in the fire. You can only lift so many weights and run so many drills through cones and ladders. But until you get out there and actually face a live NFL player coming at you, that's a different story. I saw the Juju Smith over there training with Big Ben, trying to get some live reps. Those are things that veteran guys are able to help with these young guys and kind of build that chemistry all over the league. And I'm seeing more and more veteran guys training with some of the younger guys. But in our secondary, losing Malcolm, we don't have guys that's going to be like, hey, let's get together and let's get it going.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up because I posted a video yesterday about Darius Slay working out with Brandon Graham, both in Detroit. I would love to see some videos of him working with those corners because back to Mike's question, who's suffering? I think it's all those corners that aren't Darius Slay or Nickel Robey-Coleman because I think they're good at their craft and they know what they're doing. So it's going to be intriguing. Got another fan question here from Brian. Is there one player or coach that was the biggest influence going through your career?
Oh, man.
I know. And you played with so many, man. That's a tough one.
Yeah. Every team I played on, there were some really, really good players. Even I wasn't in San Fran long, but, there was Steve Young there. There was Merton Hanks. Obviously, I get a chance to play with Ricky in Philadelphia, but I would probably give homage to my junior college coach, man, who put me on the path to even been in position to get a scholarship to Alabama. So my coach, John Sacudo, back at Glendale College in California, that's my guy. Obviously, playing along Eric Allen when I first got to the league. A lot of people's always like, man, why are you always on Eric's tip and all that? But I'm like, man, EA's the guy, man. That's the guy that set me down. I used to sit right next to him every meeting, studying his notes, looking at his notes. He literally had every receiver that he ever played with in notes. So every time we had a game, he would pull out that notes and all the receivers' routes that they ran against him and some of the things that he struggled against. And that just taught me to be more of a student of the game rather than just going out there just trying to be a pure athlete. So Eric Allen, man, shout out to my guy. I can't wait for him to get into the Hall of Fame.
I'm just going to say Hall of Fame. What is with that, man? Like every year I always make a post ever since I've been doing this, and I will bang down the doors. Unreal, man. And one of the things I love about your career too, though, and learning from someone like him, one of the things I think we got lost in the whole shuffle was you never went a year without having an interception. So it's not like you weren't someone that went and got the ball too. Whether it was one or two, you still got one, man. So even that last year, we won't talk about that team, but you still got one.
Yeah, even when I went to Washington, man, I know people were, pissed off that I went there and coming back to the vet. We ended up losing the game to the Eagles in that game, and then my son, played, like you said, Darrell Green, Champ Bailey, Sam Shade was our secondary, and like I said, man, I had the opportunity to play with some really good guys, and when I had the opportunity to receive that phone call after being released by the 49ers, that was a no-brainer for me, man. It was the opportunity to come back east. I knew the division well. It sucked playing against the Eagles, but it was really, really cool, man, to play in DC with the Redskins. But more importantly, man, being able to learn a little bit more of my game from Darrell Green, man.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask if Green was there. Yeah.
Darrell Green.
Wasn't a fan of him.
Darrell Green, Champ Bailey, and I was a nickel back in that secondary. So we had a really good run. And like I said, man, there's just so many players that I had an opportunity to play with. It's still mind-boggling to me, man, when I sit back like, man, that's, people talk about those guys like, man, I actually played with that guy. I get excited. And, still to this day, man, I'm just honored and blessed for the opportunity that I was given.
Now, who was the hardest player, would you say, that you went up against? Was it Jerry?
I know that's the first question everybody always asks, and the first name that always comes up. But my guy that I had trouble with was Gary Clark with the Washington Redskins. And We played them twice a year. Then he went to the Cardinals. We ended up playing them twice a year. But
Yeah,
Gary Clark, man, he was a great route runner. He was physical. He didn't back down. He can match my quickness. And he was on the other side of Art Monk. They had, I think they had Ricky Sanders. It was a three amigos. They had a squad back there in DC, and he was really tough, man. Gary Clark was really tough. Isaac Bruce, future Hall of Famer, ran really good routes. Henry Ellard, I got a chance to play with him on the tail end of his career. But there was a lot of receivers. Michael Irvin, that was in our division. That we had to play against him twice. Shannon, Sterling Sharp, Shannon Sharp, McCaffrey, Rod Smith. There was a lot of guys that you didn't get any breaks. There was no downtime. When we played, didn't shoot, and even Dion played wide receiver, had to guard him, which was crazy.
Wow, that's wild. That's really cool. I'll take one more question here. What about your favorite NFL coach to line up for? I know you were alluding to Bud Carson earlier being one of your favorites. Who would be your favorite?
Like I said, Bud Carson will be 1A, and 1B will be, I would say, Marty Schottenheimer. Shout out to the Schottenheimer family. I know Marty's battling Alzheimer's right now, and it's a terrible disease, but he was a coach, man, that let us be us. And, we had a lot of knuckleheads back in Kansas City on our defense, but he let us be our own man and assigned us to a specific position. We went out and did our job. He treated us like men. And, just one of those old school coaches, man, that didn't put up with the stuff that you see today, man. So, Bud Carson and Marty Schottenheimer. I got to throw out my man Ray Rhodes too in Philly, man. He was one of the guys, man. Ray, if you didn't see Ray on the sideline, I know a lot of people used to see him in the casinos betting on horses.
Oh man, that's great. Oh well, Mark, it's been awesome. It's been an hour though, so it honestly has been awesome having you on, hearing the story. Obviously, got to learn a lot more than I knew. If you want to touch on that, JT, while you're heading out, if you think we should bring him back or not, I was going to let you say your goodbyes to the people before we head out. Give you some last words here, so go right ahead.
Man, like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, man, I know you've been through a tough journey as well. Whatever I can do to kind of continue to help you out, man. If I got to try to reach out to some of my guys to get on your show. I know Seth did a show yesterday. He had Jaws. He had McNabb, and he had Randall on there. Speaking of Randall, we got Bible study in a little bit, so I got to get my praise on. But whatever I can do, man. Whatever I can do, man. And I can't make any promises. Everybody's kind of busy at this time, but for the people that tuned in, man, I appreciate you guys supporting his show. I appreciate you guys tuning in, man, just to hear me talk some trash. Check out my old beard right here. I'm going to keep it on there. I ain't shaving. So by the time y'all see me back in Philly, man, I'm going to be a woolly mammoth.
Love it. Love it. And thank you, Timothy, for joining in. Thank you to everyone for joining in. And I appreciate that, Mark. I don't expect anything. I appreciate you just coming on, and even just offering that is awesome of you. But you coming on, and then maybe in the future we'll have you on again, would just be enough for me. But thank you, man, to your support throughout the years.
We got to end it with the Eagle chant, man. Here we go. E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagle.
Love it, man. I love it. I hope everybody, thank you for tuning in. Have a great night, and we'll catch you guys soon. As always,
right,
go Birds!
Go Birds!
All right, Mark, we are